this before everybody asks. I ran them through the vat after the last video and checked them for cracks, and amazingly they didn't have any other cracks in them. So we carry on from here. Now I know I hadn't shot any videos in a while because we've all been under the weather here at the house, and my stupid ass left the radio on when I was doing this. But what I'm showing you here is how to put guide liners in, and there's two ways I do it. One is with these seat cones, and that came with a kit. It's a carbide reamer that goes through this seat cone that actually centers up on the valve seat itself. It's pretty accurate, but you know, if the valve seats too wore out or the valve guides wore out, then it can cause lots of problems. But that's what we're doing here. Like I said, I wish I could have, I was talking here and I wish I could have gone through all this, but like I said, I left the radio on, didn't want to get copyrighted, so, and I've got plenty of other videos of me putting different types of guides in. Now, you have to understand, these are bone stock heads, so we did bone stock stuff, no special nothing. They were just basically fixing these heads, fixing the valve guides. I'm showing you there the 45-degree seat cone. We're just fixing them. That's all we're doing a valve job on them. You can see I've already fixed one valve guide off camera. Then I decided, well, maybe I should film this. But I'm going to show both ways I do it. Now this is actually a Precision Engine Parts kit. But you can get one from K-Line or whatever. Goodson sells it. A lot of people sell it. But there is a preferred method I'm fixing to show you, to where I actually use a 356 reamer, a 358 reamer, and then a 373 reamer, 3/8 reamer, or 375, to do this. And it actually follows the valve guide better. The 356 and the 358 are actually for oversized stem valves. That's what I'm showing you there. And I run those. They tend to follow the valve guide that's there better, and it keeps the seat from wandering around as much. So, like I said, I use a 356, a 358, and then a 373, and that's basically your 375. 373 is what the valve guides actually call for. The 375 is fine. You're going to ball broach it. Makes them a little easier to drive in. I've never had one fall out that way. I've always had good luck doing this. And the seats don't move around. So here I'm running the first reamer through there, which is the 356, which, like I said, is normally for a oversized stem valve that they used to sell. I don't even think they sell them anymore. They do still sell the 358s, or at least I think they do. I quit using them. I just put guides in nowadays. It was a novel idea for a while, but I had to keep a bunch of valves in stock. Now I'm going to run the 358 through there, and that'll enlarge it, which is this one right here. And then when I get this one through there, I'll run the 375. It's actually 374 is what it is. 374 and a half or something like that. And then I will drive the guides in. So once I get through all this, I think in the next clip, it actually, I don't have to do voiceovers anymore, because I hate doing voiceovers because I suck at it. So here I'm running that last one through there. Yes, it's a 3-step process, but it's actually faster than using that cone, in my opinion. And like I said, it keeps everything centered up a little better, in my opinion. Everybody's got to. Now I can do this in the seat and guide machine too, but when I'm trying to just knock a set of heads out that are stock like this, then So this is you can use the cone, or you can use this. This is a 356. And then, but it's piloted to go through there for. This is actually for an oversized valve, oversized stem. Then you run the 358 through there, and then run a 358 through there, then a 3/8
reamer will go through there, and that's what those are on 11/32. So to me, this is a better way to do it because it follows the old valve guide and it doesn't seem to drift off with it as much as it does with those cones. So,
all in all, this takes me approximately 15 minutes to get them reamed out, and the new guys drove back in. I'm just got to spit way up. Okay, so now I'm about to knock this in. I'm showing you that you can do this with a hammer, or you can do it with an air driver. You can do every bit of this if you buy the kit with a hammer. And I don't recommend it. I'm just showing that you can actually do it. But if you have an air hammer, it is 10 times faster to do it that way. I don't know. I just figured I'd put it on camera that you can do it with a hammer. Same thing with the size of the balls. You can do that with a hammer too. Man, you're going to be there for a while. So, I mean, I got the drivers to do it now because I do so many of them. Me doing it with air driver.
That's a whole lot easier.
I always buy the longest guides because they cost the same and just cut them off. But you can buy them short. You buy them in different ways, which I'll talk about that later. Okay, and now I think the rest of the video you don't have to listen to my dumbass talking on a voiceover. So here we go.
Okay, so at this point we got the liners in, and now we've got to size them and cut them off. So these right here are called ball broaches. There's two different sizes here. You need the size and you need to sneak up on it. So you need like the size you want to finish with and just the size before that. And the thing to know about bronze is you always want to go about 1 to 1.5 thousandths bigger on your ball broach because of the properties of bronze. It kind of springs back. So, you know, this is I'm going for 343.5, and this is 344.5 is the biggest one I got, or 344.5. So I got 343.5 and 344.5, and what we're going to do now, these are the older style ball broaches. You don't really get these anymore. If you can find them, get them. If they're not wore out, they do wear, but they still work. So these are pretty much wore out. About time to get me some new ones. But the new thing they're selling is a little ball, either just a little carbide ball or a ball with a little stem on it. And you drive the ball with the stem on it, you drive it with this, and you can also drive these with this or a hammer. What you don't want to do, no, actually the ball with the stem, I'll take that back. You drive it with, and I'll show you one here in just a minute, but if you can find these, get these. I don't think they sell them anymore. I don't think they make them anymore. If they come up on eBay, get them. This is, to me, the better setup. Those little carbide balls, you have to drive them through with, okay, so these right here are the carbide balls that are on the stem. Now these are not so bad because you don't have to go chasing them around, but you have to have a driver for this, and I don't know where the hell it went. It's around here somewhere. But that's how you would put that in there and drive it through. They work good. But the other way they sell you, are these little carbide balls right here. There again, you have to have a special driver for these, which is this guy right here. Now this is a ball driver. If you notice on the end of it, it's concave for a ball. And here's your little carbide ball. It looks like a BB. You always want to keep it with whatever package it comes with because there's nothing wrote on it. To me, this is a setup for failure so that you will lose these things. I recommend the easiest way to keep up with them is to put them in put a magnetic tray underneath the valve guide that you're working on. And that way they'll stick to that magnetic tray. So, for today, you think Goodson would do better. He sent me this kit. Paid $1,300 for this damn kit, and really don't fit in this cheesy ass box they put it in. But for today, we're using the old style. And I like these better. I just do. So the way we're going to do this, I can't even read on them what they are anymore, barely. I got one that's notched, so I know that's my 343. Now normally I do this with the head facing me so I can just go through and come up, but since I got you guys down this way, the number one most important thing, and I'm just going to do one or two of these, and then I'll have to flip the head over and do it the other direction. And I do that just to make sure the valve guide's seated, and sometimes it takes tight spots out. So sometimes, depending on the valve guide, sometimes when you get done broaching them, they're sized, they're perfect. But most of the time you have to go back and ream them or hone them. In the interest of saving time with these, and since it's a budget job for a guy, I'm not going to hone them. That takes too long, so I'll end up reaming them unless it comes out perfect, and it won't. Right, there's one. Now, like I said, make sure you lubricate these things. If you don't, it will wear them out almost immediately. I've gotten like 15 years out of these right here. Yeah, it makes a mess, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Also, don't do what I just did there. You notice the end of the driver, I let it get down there too close because I wasn't paying attention. So now we're putting the bigger one through it. Alright, I'll do one more and show you, and then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to go ahead and finish doing this because we have to flip it over and do it the other direction and then cut the guides off. I'll show you that in just a second. Come on, man, work with me here. Always make sure you wipe all the trash off of them, because if you don't, there again, that shit will get impregnated in the valve guides, and it will also wear out your driver. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one, and then I'm going to cut you off and finish up, and then I'll come back when we do another step, because it's just basically rinse and repeat. Yes, it's time consuming, but you know, used to I drove these through with a hammer before I got that little driver right there, and let me tell you, that took some time. You can do all of this with a hammer, but I mean, shit, just spend the money and buy the extra tooling, especially if you're going to do it all the time. Just like that. Sometimes you'll find yourself running them through there 2 or 3 times, but make sure you get it flipped over and drive them through the other way, because you're going to have to come back and cut the excess off because it stretches them out. And I'll show you that too. So Alright, so we have that drove through. Now, like I said, I got to do the other side too. I got to do the rest of these, and then I got to do this. So let me get a valve and see how close we're getting. See, it wants to fit, but it's still just a little too tight. So, and when we drive it back through the other way, it might be perfect. It might not. If it's not, we'll run the reamer through it, and if not, we'll hone it. I mean, but hopefully we can just, yeah. Okay, so I'll cut you back on. I decided to go ahead and cut you back on while I was, so you can see how it looks on the other side. You see the valve guides are hanging out the back right now. I had to cut those off. You can buy them in different lengths. I always buy them long ones. It don't take much to cut them off. So we're doing this one here now. Now, yeah, when I get done doing sizing the guides and putting them in there, I generally take the heads over to the solvent tank, wash all the oil out of them, and then do the valve job. We got these two left, and I'll cut you on when I get that part done. Be right back. Okay, so now we're back, and we got to do the same thing through the top. Now this time we're just going to run the larger one through. We're just going to run it through one time, and what that basically does is it makes you stretch the metal this way and you stretch it this way, then you cut it off, and most of the time that's good enough. With these, and because my ball broaches are so wore out, I'm going to say probably I'll have to end up reaming them. This is the same thing. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just put a little oil in here. Oh, and this one is short right here because it wadded up on the other side, driving it through, like this one did. Only difference was it came all the way through, so I just cut it off on the bottom. And so now we're going to beat these through, and they're going to, they should go through pretty easy. If it feels tight when it goes through, run it through there again. That one felt pretty tight. I'm gonna hit that one more again. Well, damn it, let's just drop it to the floor. Now, one thing I'll tell you with these things, you got to watch that you don't split these whenever you're driving these through. That's why you want to do it in steps. Now, if you have a set of heads, and if you're putting liners in them and you're going to cut them down for seals, cut them down for seals after you do this. If you've got to replace the liners, or you've already cut them for seals and then decide you're going to put liners in there, if you cut them down like that, then you need to get you some of these, or make some of these collars. These are split collars, and it's a pain in the ass. But what you basically have to do is every time you run this ball broach through there, you slide this down on there and tighten it. Or slide this ball broach down on there, or this collar down on there, tighten that up around it, and that keeps it from breaking this. But that's only if you're cutting it for, if you cut it for PC seal, or you have like a, and I've done this before, a lot of people do it. If you have a replacement valve guide in there, it's a cast guide, Well, it's only 500,000 sticks, so just go ahead and knock the crap off around it and do it, because it will split. It's going to split, guaranteed. But I have also found that going from the bottom up seems to eliminate it. So sometimes I get some of these that still split. It pisses me off when it does it. But see, I mangled the top of that when it hit it. We don't care because we're going to cut that off anyway. Okay, so now we're cutting the tops off of them. It's a simple little cutter. I actually don't like this cutter right here. It works, but I don't like it. It was the one that came with a kit years ago. I actually have a better cutter, but I broke the damn thing the other day, so we're back to using this old thing. Just like that. That's all there is to it. And I don't know if y'all can actually see what I'm doing in the camera now. Let me change the angle of the cylinder here. Maybe y'all can see it better now. And sometimes I do this in the seat and guide machine. It leaves a prettier finish, but we're not doing production work here, so we're just using the drill and it worked just fine. Alright, so let's talk about time for a minute. There's other things that still need to be done here, but you know, this is all on a time lapse and cut out, you know. It is now about, I don't know, right around 6 o'clock or a little after 6. I've been working on these things, doing this since about 2. So since about 2 o'clock this afternoon, I started this project. So don't get in a hurry is what I'm trying to tell you. The next thing you need to do, anyway, you need a tapered reamer, and I'll use this one here. And you just need to knock that top edge off. On the top and the bottom, both of the cylinder head, you'll get a lip there. Or, you know, on the top and the bottom of the guide. So, just give it a couple twirly whirlies, don't get too crazy with it, and just knock that little edge off. Now, when you get all this done, you're going to have to do a valve job, because in a perfect world, you know, you could just knock the guide out and knock one right back in, and, you know, sometimes you can do that with some cylinder heads, but even then, your linearity between the valve and the valve guide and the valve seat is usually off. And especially when you put liners in, it's going to be all over the place. So it's important to try to keep the liners straight. So if you got a valve guide that's really, really wore out and you try to center on it, man, it makes it rough. Most of the time when they're like that, I just put them in the seat and guide machine and center them that way, because it's a little more accurate that way. Because if you get the valve guide like this or this or this or this, well, it throws your seat off. Well, it can even ruin a cylinder head if you get it too terribly bad. But at the very least, you're going to be, you know, grinding or cutting valve seats for hours trying to get everything right. Okay, so we've got the top part of this done. Now I'm going to grab a valve and just check and kind of see where we're at. To me, that's, I mean, there's a burr on the valve, is what it is. But anyway, we're getting there, and you see how tight these valves are. They're pretty tight. Now I'm going to go ahead and ream them. Just to make sure we don't have any issues. I'm going to cut you off. I got to do the other head the same way, and then I got to do the bottom the same way. And then I'll cut you back on. Here in a minute, I'm going to go ahead and run the reamer through them, and I'll show you that. So and one more thing after that. I forgot to tell you, once you get all those and you use your tapered reamer, we're going to do that on the other side too, on the bottom side of the guides. But we're going to check to make sure they're not hanging out the hole. And the reason they would do that is sometimes when you broach them back the other direction. That's why I don't cut them off until after I broach them this way, because it stretches them out. And sometimes even after I cut them off, or do that, and then when I go back the other direction, sometimes it leaves them hanging out the bottom of the hole a little bit. And actually, it feels like it did on these a little. So I'll go back and actually cut them down. You don't want them hanging out. But you need to use this is a 45-degree chamfering tool just to knock that little edge off. And you don't need to give it much. All you're doing is just knocking that little top edge off right there. And that's it. You're done with this side. And then we got to flip it over and do the other side. Alright, I didn't show it on camera because my battery died. It's the next day. But, got all the valve guides in. Got them sized right. I ended up not having to ream these. The Allbirds got them perfect clearance. So, at this point, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and wash these and get the oil off of them. Clean up my valve guide mess here, and then we'll go to grinding the seats. So I'll be back. We're gonna go ahead and wash them up. Alright, so I hadn't shown grinding valve seats. I'm going to do another video on grinding valve seats, but anytime you replace the valve guides, you absolutely 100% must grind the valve seats, cut the valve seats, whatever you use, because it's going to move the seat around. I don't care how accurate your reamer is, whatever. Especially when on heads like this, where the valve guides were so wore out and there's nothing really to hold the pilot in place. Even if you're going off the old seats were wore out. I showed you the seat cones. There's really no way to get it absolutely 100% perfect. So you have to grind the seats to get the seat back in line with the valve guide. Of course, I'm going to check lap these. I use a marker for a witness mark on the valve seats as I go. I got the exhaust seats done. I'm going to come back and do the intake seats, and then I'll cut you back on when I get those done. Like I said, I'll do a valve grinding video, valve seat grinding video at some point in the near future, and then we'll check lap them with lapping compound, make sure they're going to seat. Make sure you ain't got no problems. Then we'll service them and we'll put them together. Now, these aren't critical. It's got, basically it's a stock engine. It is a 400, but it's basically a stock engine, so it's got stock springs on it. So we're doing a stock valve job with a few upgrades. I'm doing a 3-angle valve job. Alright guys, we're back. We got the valve seats all ground and witness marked. I didn't show that. I will at some point do a valve grinding video. But in the interest of saving time, I didn't. So now what we're going to do is Matt is going to check lap them with lapping compound and surface them, and then we'll wash them and put them together. And so we'll be back. Alright, so Matt lapped the valves in. All the seats look pretty good. The other head's on the machine, getting ready to surface it, and we'll be back when we do that. Well, pass number 1. Let's see what she looks like. Alright, we got the first one off the machine. It's looking pretty good, if I must say so myself. So, anyway, we're going to throw the other one up there and do it, and then we'll put them together. And now we're cutting the other. Shop cat has to supervise. So when this gets done, we'll be back. My favorite part.
Yeah, I know. This is all out of order. But when the heads were in the vat, I went ahead and buffed all the carbon off the valves, and ground the tips and measured them. But hey, what do you expect out of me? I ain't no YouTube expert. I'm just a fat, lowly engine builder from Texas. Alright, so our little 882 project here, we're going to check the valves and see. I'm not going to show every one of them, but I'm going to check to see if they have any taper in the valves. Those have about 3/10, that's fine for a stock head. Over here, we'll go ahead and grind the butt end. This side of the machine. Alright. That one's done, 15 more to go. Okay, so I've been polishing valve stems. I got down to the last one. I'm going to show you how I do it. It's hard to do one-handed. Alright, so what I do is take a piece of 320 grit emery cloth, go all the way up and down it. And you can feel if there's any, especially up here at the top where it sometimes gets and all we're trying to do is just polish it. Then I go back over that with a piece of 800. That's it. That's still got to wash it off, but anyway, it's just like all these have been done here. Matthew roughed them in for me last night, but or cleaned them for me last night, but didn't polish them. So anyway, we carry on. All right, guys. So can't get a real good shot of this, but I've already done all the rest of them. In the interest of saving time, I'm not going to sit here and video every bit of this. I don't know if any of this is even helpful to anybody. But I do want to show you what you need to do. Like I said, we polished those a minute ago. Before we put the heads together, and of course you notice oil all over them. And of course, when I get done with them, I'll clean that. But you want to oil the valve guide well. You're going to make a mess. Then you want to take some brake clean, acetone, something, and wipe those valve stems off. Now I've already washed these valves. You want to wipe those valve stems off. Even though I washed these in solvent, look what still comes off of them. You don't want that trash in the valve guides. So we're going to wash that. We're going to wipe that off till it's clean. Yeah, this is time consuming. All this is time consuming. It takes, takes a little time to do it right. So now that we're not getting anything off the paper, we're going to go ahead and wipe the seat, the valve seat. Make sure there's no trash on it, and there's not. Now, I'm going to oil this. I'm going to do it over the trash can though. Alright, now I have my assembly lube on there.
And when you slide that valve in there, if you feel anything drag at all, it should float. If you feel any kind of drag, trash, anything, stop, fix the problem. Because if you don't, it will come back and haunt you. Alright, so we got the valves in. Now I'm going to put the springs on. I don't know that I'm going to show that. I'm not going to show how to set the springs up on these. These are stock heads. Basically what I'm going to do on these, I'm going to throw some 60,000 shims underneath the stock springs and put them back together, let it eat. Measuring the valve height on that is, I mean, as long as it's, I'll measure one or two of them, make sure that they're all pretty much averaged. Now on a set of race heads, we'll measure each and every single spring, or really high performance head. We'll measure each and every single spring to make sure they have the seat and the open pressure they need and the installed height where it needs to be, and adjust the shims as needed. Alright guys, so we got our heads done. What did we learn? Not anything. Just a stock set of heads, basically. I did go through here, and I told you I wasn't going to do it, but I did go through here and balance the springs. Just because there were some, well, the way, whoever did these before, they've been done before, and whoever did them before had the springs set up. They had about 45 pounds on the seat. So I went through and checked them all and actually set them up, and for the most part I just had to throw some 60 shims under there, so I had to throw a little more. But anyway, I guess that's going to conclude this video. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments. Don't harp on me about my shop. We're under a major renovation right now. That's why we have stuff scattered everywhere. It's hard to even walk in here. So you know how it is. You gotta make a bigger mess to clean. So anyway, all right guys, that's gonna do it for the Mark, Matt, and Misty Performance Show, and we'll see you on the next one.